Well, guys, I don't need to tell you that computer hardware at the moment is, well, difficult to get hold of, particularly GPUs. Lower-end Ryzen processors such as the 5600X aren't so bad, but cards such as the RX 6800 XT or the RTX 1380 are very difficult to get hold of because of several reasons. The first is, of course, manufacturing shortages, but mostly it comes down to demand. Many users keep their card for at least a couple of generations, which makes sense given that they're plonking down 400, 500, 600, or even more in some cases US dollars. But cards such as the RX 6000 series or the RTX 3080 offer a tangible big performance leap from their predecessors, such as, for example, the GTX 1070 or Vega 64. And this has meant that we are in a perfect storm right now, which is felt across the entire industry. Automotive, consoles, everyone's feeling the pinch. But one of the best ways to get hold of hardware at the moment, actually, is to go the pre-built route. And I do realize that many of you don't necessarily have pre-built on your mind when thinking of picking up a new computer. You like the idea of going in, tweaking, optimizing, choosing your own components, not to mention that many system integrators don't have the best reputation. Let's just be honest, there's a ton of system integrators that cheap out on things such as the power supply or use proprietary things like motherboards, which means upgrading later on down the line is extremely difficult. So when CyberPower reached out to me asking if I wanted to take a sponsored look at one of their systems, I did some due diligence. I checked out their specifications, spoke with them fairly at length about this, and then decided to actually work with them because their component selection is really good. We'll get into it in just a moment, but more to the point, you can configure the system how you would want to, and after that, it's non-proprietary, so you can use it as a base and then upgrade and tweak how you would want. With that said, a small caveat, I have not tweaked any of the settings. This system is how CyberPower sent it to me, so I've not gone in, optimized memory timings or any of that. The reason I have chosen to not do this is quite obvious and quite simple. I want this to be an out-of-the-box experience comparison for you all. For those who are more technically inclined, you can go in, of course, and optimize memory timings or choose to optimize, let's say, curves on PBO or whatever you want to do. But I wanted this to represent just the average, user and how it would, work and, run for them in terms of temperatures and so much more. So let's have a quick look at the specifications of the system that I was sent. We're looking at a Ryzen 9 5900X, an Asus TUF motherboard, 32 gigabytes of 3600 megahertz RAM, which is quite speedy to be honest, and an RX 6800 XT, which is created by MSI. It's a Gaming X Trio variant. All of this, again, is non-proprietary hardware, so you can tweak it, upgrade it however you want. You can also configure the system how you would want to as well. The system configuration tool allows you to select a base system and then tweak things like new processors, put in additional storage, the RAM. It's very customizable. In fact, you could even add in custom water cooling if you so want. While we'll be looking at the performance of this system in just a moment, the results you'll see on screen are only, of course, representative of this system. So if you went in and, let's say, went with a smaller a GPU or more powerful CPU, this would affect the results accordingly. Before we get into the benchmarks though, let's have a look at the build quality of the system. Overall, I think it's pretty darn good. Honestly, I think that the system is pretty well cable managed. And again, the selection of components is pretty nice as well. Noise levels of the system are really good, even under heavy load. And I did some temperature testing, which is, about the worst case user scenario that I can think of. I was running Cinebench R23 on a loop. And then on top of that was also running a GPU workload, which was Blender, and temperatures on the CPU were actually pretty damn good. And that was the same for the GPU as well. You can see all the temperatures on screen yourself, so you don't have to take my word for it. And again, I ran this loop multiple times and the results were always pretty consistent. I actually am pretty happy with the temperatures overall. If you're eagle-eyed, you'll probably notice that I've left some packing foam in the system as well, which is of course there to help dampen the shock of hard drives during being jostled around as shipping people will throw the system into their van. Now, of course, I could quite easily remove this and then reroute the cables, but I decided to not do that. I was very tempted, but I decided to not do it. The reason I've chosen to leave this in, despite the fact that it is actually making me go, yeah, every time I look at it in the photos, but the reason I chose to leave it in is if it does affect airflow or not, I want that to be represented in the video, because I know that some people may not be super comfortable, unplugging cables if they're perhaps slightly less technically inclined. Of course, if you are, very comfortable, taking out graphics cards and all of that, you can very easily remove this packing foam. But I wanted it to be as representative as an out-of-the-box experience as possible. Speaking of packaging, how was the system packaged? Well, for me anyway, it was pretty darn good. There was internal packing foam, as you can see on camera right now, and also the system was plonked into a couple of boxes to minimize it being jostled around or minimize the chances of it being damaged in transit. Mine arrived absolutely flawlessly, but naturally, your mileage may vary depending on if the courier decides to drop kick it down the stairs. So, how does the system perform? You're not just buying it for its looks after all, and the answer is pretty damn well. Again, I want to stress that this is out of the box. You can certainly go in and tweak and optimize the system to get more performance out of it. But obviously CyberPower are tweaking the system for just max stability out of the box experience. Overall though, the system performs brilliantly in a variety of different workloads: Cinebench, Blender, games like Doom Eternal, Shadow of the Tomb Raider perform absolutely brilliantly. And it's also super fun, by the way, to connect this into a 4K variable rate refresh TV and have like up to 120 hertz gaming. And I do think that that's a really cool experience for modern day PCs. Personally, I do think that it's better to go with a smaller form factor build than this for the living room. But of course, that would depend on your particular scenario. Either way though, a system configured similar to this is absolutely amazing on a big screen, and I do think it's worth at least trying out if you are considering picking up a large screen TV anyway. If you're a newer viewer to the channel, you may not know this, but I don't take a ton of sponsored deals, because honestly, a lot of the sponsored deals that I get offered, especially at a channel my size, I don't really believe in them. I don't really feel comfortable putting a video out on the product. But when CyberPower reached out to me and now I've tested out the system, I actually feel quite good about this video. I genuinely think it's a well put together system, and I'm going to say this honestly. And it's really weird for me to admit this, but if I was not running like this channel and I was not given access to this hardware, and I feel incredibly grateful, by the way, to you all for the support and being able to get this hardware, and just even for you listening to any of my videos at all, it's extremely weird to me that I've got almost 90,000 subscribers at this point. And I was just kind of getting a system for myself. I might even consider going pre-built simply because of the difficulty and the absurdity at the moment in getting hold of a card. I can say honestly that a couple of my friends are trying to get hold of cards at the moment, such as the RTX 3080, and they are just getting so frustrated with the ring around, running around trying to get hold of a card, and it's just so difficult at the moment. So with that said, I genuinely think that the CyberPower system is pretty darn good, with my experiences anyway. And the fact that you can configure it, tweak it, optimize it means that I think it serves as a pretty good platform going forward. Hopefully you have found the video informative or fun or useful or something, I don't know. And if you did, of course, leave a like on the video. Let me know also in the comments down below if you are considering maybe getting a pre-built either for you or, for a family member, or maybe recommending it to a friend. With that said, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.